What's up, guys? Lucky Locks here. Welcome back to another prediction video. This is going to be for LFA 128. We have Aaron McKenzie and Lucas Clay in the main event. This is a really good card. I'm really looking forward to watching this one on Friday night. I especially think the main event and actually the first fight that we talk about are going to be two really awesome fights that I'm really excited to see. And just top to bottom, man, we got a lot of good fighters on this card, a lot of exciting prospects, and can't wait to get into it. So without further ado, let's get right into the first one. Opening up the main card, we have a absolute banger of a fight between Sarek Shields and Thad Jean. These are two really good welterweight prospects, and I think pretty highly of both of them. Both of them have looked really good so far in their career. Sarek Shields is a 2-0 fighter. He's 27 years old and got a really nice win over Jeremiah Curtright last time out. That was an impressive victory, especially in your second pro fight. He looked very dominant there. Actually won by retirement at the end of the second round. After just dominating the fight. So he had a 5-1 amateur career as well. The one loss that he had there was to Josh Quinlan, so not a bad loss at all. Doesn't have a ton of volume striking wise. Also, we haven't really had to see him in an extended exchange on the feet very often. He's very much geared towards being patient outside and finding the right moment to close the distance. He is a very strong wrestler. Once he gets in on the hips, he's heavy on top on the ground. He has good ground and pound, does damage from top position. He's also a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's going to be fighting Thad Jean, a 2-0 fighter from Florida, who is pretty young still at only 23 years old. 5-2 amateur career where he had a win over Titan FC champ Delano Taylor. He also went 3 rounds with Roman Feraldo as an amateur, and those are really, really good names coming out of Florida right now. Obviously, Delano Taylor we saw in PFL Challenger Series. He's the current Titan FC champion. And then Roman Feraldo we've seen on Bellator with a couple impressive wins over there. So good level of competition as an amateur, very, very good. Fighting the best guys in his region for sure, and those guys have turned out to be some of the better guys in the country, actually. Gene debuted as a pro last year on CES with a first-round submission, and then knocked out his next opponent on CFFC in the first round as well. Good striker, has some kickboxing experience, shown good wrestling and ground control as well, lands strikes from the top. I believe he's also a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I think this guy's a really promising prospect. This is the best fight on the card for me outside of the main event in terms of how excited I am to watch it. I feel like this is going to be a really fun one to watch. This isn't really a fight that I want much to do with betting-wise, to be honest. Both look very good on tape, both very early in their careers. They've had a combined 4 pro fights, and out of those 4, I do believe that Sarek Shields' last fight was the toughest opponent that either guy has faced thus far. Shields has continued to look better and better as we've seen him continue to compete. And then Thad Jean, on the other hand, he has fought a very high level of opponents on the amateur circuit. Beating Delano Taylor is really impressive. Still young at 23 years old, and I think if I had to place a bet here, I would back Sarek Shields as the underdog, but this is a fight between two bright prospects that I'd rather just sit back and enjoy to kick off the card. Next fight up, we're going to go to the bantamweight division for Mitchell McKee and Jalen Jackson. McKee is a Sanford MMA product, University of Minnesota wrestler, All-American, was junior national freestyle champ twice, silver at the Junior World Championships, made his pro MMA debut on the prelims of LFA 120, stopped his opponent 30 seconds into the second round. So striking-wise, not really the greatest from what we've seen, doesn't look super comfortable standing, but obviously the wrestling is really, really good, ground and pound is great. Some wrestlers who transition to MMA get guys down and then they kind of freeze up, they don't really know what to do, once they've actually got it there. But McKee lands good, damaging strikes from top, and he's fighting against Jalen Jackson here, who's an 0-1 fighter making his second pro appearance, has 2 amateur fights listed on his record and was defeated in both of those. All 3 of those fights actually have ended within 25 seconds. The longest he's lasted in the cage thus far is 24 seconds, so that's not super promising. The odds came out for this one. McKee is a -350 favorite. I honestly assumed he might actually open up a little bit wider than that. I'm probably just going to pass on this fight, but I'd assume that McKee probably passes this test relatively easily. Like, you see him at Sanford training with really top guys, getting pictured with Michael Chandler. So I feel like he'll be able to get this one done here. I feel like this fight is kind of set up to get him a win. So I'm going with Mitchell McKee to get the win in this fight. So next up, we have another very decorated college wrestler in a matchup against Viola. So the wrestler I'm talking about obviously is Bryce Meredith. He was an All-American college wrestler at Wyoming, was 33-2 in his senior year, did some freestyle wrestling at the senior level afterwards, and making the transition to MMA now, training under the MMA lab. Debuted last year against Stephen Merrill, scored a round 1 finish there. He did get dropped earlier in that fight. Striking is about what you would expect. It's still very raw, a little bit messy. I like that he feels comfortable, though. He's not just trying to avoid the striking at all costs. Some of these wrestling prospects look really uncomfortable standing, and he doesn't. He doesn't look good, but he's still learning. He's on the right track. I like his aggressiveness. I love his compete level. Defensively does have some pretty big holes at this point, striking-wise. From what we've seen last time, I would assume that he's going to look better and better in that department every single time that we see him in the cage, because he's a very talented athlete. He looks like he has the compete level, the drive to really want to improve, and I liked what I saw out of him in the first fight. He had to overcome a lot of adversity there, and a lot of times these really hyped prospects do not have to deal with a ton of adversity coming up. He had to deal with it, right off the bat. He got dropped really early there. He was able to battle through and still finish the fight in the first round. So that was an impressive win in his pro debut against a pretty experienced guy in Stephen Merrill. So Friday, he's going to be fighting Viola, who is a 3-3 fighter. Lost his last 2, but that was to Fernie Garcia and Mitch Raposo. Went the distance with Garcia and lasted into the 3rd round with Raposo. All of his wins, though, came on California Cage Wars, so not the strongest competition there, but the last 2 guys he fought, really, really tough matchups. Does not have any finishes as a pro, and also he's 46 years old. So he's pretty old, especially for bantamweight. That's kind of a bit of a concern for me in this matchup coming up against a young guy like Bryce Meredith. Viola fought Fernie Garcia in 2020 and then just fought Mitch Raposo last month. So striking-wise, doesn't really have that knockout power that would make me nervous, considering that Meredith did get dropped in his last fight. I believe that Viola is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, but I think at 26, this is a former All-American wrestler's fight to lose here. I just don't see Viola having the stopping power to knock him out. I think that Meredith is going to have a big athleticism advantage, youth advantage. I think that the key area to address is to make sure he's staying safe in top position, obviously because Viola does have some jiu-jitsu chops in his back pocket, but I think Meredith can do it. Not going anywhere near this fight the way it's lined, like minus 2,000. Just not something that's interesting to me, but yeah, I like Bryce Meredith to win in this one. Featured bout of the evening is taking place at a catchweight of 160 between Devon Dixon and Richie Miranda. So Devon Dixon is still undefeated with the draw last fight. He's now 4-0-1, had an 8-2 amateur career. He's a 25-year-old fighter from Florida, has fought his full pro career on Titan FC so far with a 75% finish rate, and he's pretty quick on the feet. Works the jab out there. He's a solid striker. Stanford MMA guy, I believe. Grappling is nothing amazing, but he has pretty good get-ups. Can tire a little bit as the fight wears on, though. That's just something to keep in mind. Richie Miranda, on the other hand, is a 3-0 prospect, was a 7-1 amateur. First 2 pro wins over debuting opponents, but got a nice win on Cage Warriors while they were in California last fall. Finished every one of his pro wins, so has a 100% finish rate. Haven't gotten to see a whole lot of him in general, just the way he puts guys away early. So we definitely really haven't seen that much striking from him, but he does look quite good from what we've been able to see just in general. But like I said, haven't been able to see a ton of striking. Good clinch game, though. Good wrestling. He's very patient, but also very deliberate with his actions. Good back takes. Really good work once he gets there. That's a position that he really likes. But he's going to be in a tough matchup against Devon Dixon here. Dixon is pretty good. He's quick. I think he'll be the better striker early here, but I think that Miranda can get some takedowns, and I believe if he doesn't get a finish, Dixon will actually give up more and more control time as the fight goes on. But this is 2 really good prospects going at it here. Can't really feel too confident about it, but I am going to side with Miranda in this one. That's going to bring us up to the co-main event, and we have a heavyweight fight between Jimmy Lawson and Marino Eatman. Lawson, I really like this guy as a prospect. 3-1, training out of American Kickboxing Academy. His one loss is Saeed Soma, and Lawson has 3 round 1 knockout wins out of his 3 fights, so 100% finish rate. knocking guys out, looking really good. He's got really heavy hands, also very athletic for his size. He's a former Penn State wrestler, really strong in that aspect of the game as well. And we talked about him ahead of LFA 125, where he was supposed to be making his second LFA appearance. That fight ended up falling out. So he has had one LFA fight on his resume so far, and it was a very fast knockout. And it really tells you what the promotion thinks of him now, putting him in an LFA co-main event in his 5th pro fight and just his 2nd appearance with the promotion. Still very young in his career. Eatman, on the other hand, is a 5-4-1 prospect out of MMA Masters. Record isn't really the greatest to look at, but to be fair to him, all of his losses have been really good fighters. One FC fighter, Hugo Cunha, also Brett Martin, who was an LFA champ and was supposed to be on PFL Challenger Series this year, also lost to 2 Bellator fighters, and Steve Mowry and Saeed Soma, who was a common opponent between Eatman and Lawson. And, so the losses, not too bad, but as for the wins, not bad, not great. Only one finish, 4 decision wins. And Eatman is a really big guy. He's fought at super heavyweight a few times at 300 pounds. But yeah, man, I just feel that Lawson is the better fighter in this matchup. Got better momentum coming in here. Yeah, I like Jimmy Lawson to get this one done. And I feel like it looks pretty similar to a lot of his other wins. That's going to get us up to the main event for the lightweight LFA championship. And this fight is a really good fight, guys. I'm really excited to watch this. I'm also kind of sad because I don't want to see either one of these guys lose. I really like both guys. But we got Aaron McKenzie coming up against Lucas Clay here for the belt. And this is a high-level fight. Aaron McKenzie, 10-2-1, 3-0 in the LFA, 4-0 if you count a win on Legacy FC back in the day, 6-1 in his last 7 fights. 1 loss was to Chris Gonzalez, who's rising through the ranks in Bellator. And last time we talked about McKenzie, it was before LFA 121, where he was supposed to meet Joshua Jones. I said that with a win there, he could be in the title conversation. That fight ended up falling through. Jones had a weight cut issue, and McKenzie is now in that title fight, and I believe that he does deserve to be here. He's one of the best lightweights, if not the best. We'll see on Friday in the LFA lightweight division currently. So, striking-wise, this guy's a well-rounded fighter. He can start a little bit slow at times, and he fights pretty close a lot of the time as well, but he won his last fight over Brandon Phillips, and I thought he'd look a little more dominant there, but, he finds good combinations on the feet. He touches with the leg kick. He has an 80% finish rate. He's very dangerous on the feet, as well as being dangerous on the mat. He has that collegiate wrestling pedigree, dangerous submission threat when he's there. There's just no aspect of his game that you can really say he has a large weak spot in. Grappling, I think I'd say, is the stronger tool as compared to the striking for him, but he is proficient wherever the fight takes place. He's a tough guy to take down and also a tough guy to keep down. Chris Gonzalez was able to do it a little bit, but I would say, Chris Gonzalez, as far as wrestling go, very, very, very good. A far superior wrestler to Lucas Clay, although Clay is probably the better, pure jiu-jitsu player once it actually is on the ground. But Lucas Clay is 8-1 on a 4-fight win streak. His 1 pro loss was to Trey Ogden. 1 amateur loss was to Will Starks. Has wins over Brant Moore, Mike Breeden, still a young prospect at 26 years old, fighting out of a really good camp in St. Charles MMA in Missouri. Striking, he can be a bit of a slow starter as well, similar to McKenzie. Clay is a really top prospect, though I think very highly of him. The striking is probably where he needs to improve his game the most before moving on to the next level. Has trained in a bunch of different martial arts. I know he has boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai experience. MMA striking, is just arguably a separate art just because of the nature of the sport. Clay has great fundamentals, but I think the striking game is still a bit of a work in progress. Kozarovsky gave him a real run for his money on the feet in the first round of their last fight, and Koz was actually able to take him down in the first round too. Grappling-wise, Clay is a very, very skilled grappler, was immediately attacking submissions off his back, eventually found one in the second round where he looked a lot better. Has 3 submissions under his belt. He's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Really, really good guard game. Both of these guys are big lightweights. Both really like to grapple. I think they could somewhat cancel each other out in that aspect. I think McKenzie is the better striker, a little cleaner, a little more volume. I think McKenzie has the raw wrestling advantage and the ability to stay safe on top if the fight goes there, but Clay is a guy that I definitely think will be in a major organization one day, but I think that on Friday it's going to be McKenzie that goes home with the belt. Very close fight. Clay, obviously, I think he has the jiu-jitsu in his back pocket, man. He's really good there. But McKenzie also is a really good grappler, good wrestler. And when it does take place on the feet, which it's going to start every round standing, I just give McKenzie a slight edge in that aspect. So I'm going with Aaron McKenzie here, but This is a closely lined fight, and for very good reason. I think it's a close fight, but I think I just give that slight advantage to Aaron McKenzie in this one. But it's going to be a great main event on Friday night. That's going to do it for my LFA 128 predictions, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Best of luck this weekend with any bets that you choose to make, and as always, I will catch you on the next video.